Well, good morning, everyone, and what an extraordinary opportunity. You know, from the Indigenous business gathering in Saskatoon to the London Stock Exchange and here today at TMX, we've been talking about some exciting Indigenous business opportunities, particularly when it comes to the resource sector and legacy infrastructure required to support it. The message was clear. Indigenous partnerships, be they community or businesses, want to play an important and essential role as we build this out. Under the vision of the Premier of Ontario, he's been very clear. The next chapter of reconciliation with First Nations across Ontario will have a sharpened focus on economic reconciliation. And indeed, recently, to stylize my title as responsible for partnerships, community and economic, in the development of the Ring of Fire with my colleague, Minister Lecce, the Minister of Mines, it's been very well received. We've got some great experiences to draw on. Cote Gold with Matagami First Nation and Flying Post First Nation, Greenstone Gold in the central part of Northern Ontario, just south of the Ring of Fire, and way out in northwestern Ontario as we move partner with First Nations to build a bridge across the Barrens River into an area of Northern Ontario that will provide road access for more than 10,000 First Nations communities, access a world-class fibre basket of which a Pikangikum First Nations has the exclusive rights, and they already have a mill in their community thanks to the leadership of our Premier. Oh, and by the way, a world-class lithium mine access as well. It's clear. Economic and community partnerships play an essential role in what we're building under the vision of our Premier. So I'm excited to be here today and say that as Minister Lecce comes to the podium, that it's no coincidence that we find ourselves at the base of the Toronto Stock Exchange, in fact, the world's leader of initial public offerings, and send a clear message to the people of Ontario that we're getting this right. The reception has been great so far over the past several weeks since the election, and I'm sure what Minister Lecce has to say today and the Premier's remarks will send a clear signal to the people of Ontario and to the Indigenous business community and communities that we want and we expect a full and meaningful partnership, because that has been the way since we've been in government that these projects have advanced quickly, efficiently, and effectively. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Okay. Well, good morning. It's good to be here. Thank you so much, Minister Rickford, for the introduction. Good to be joined with Minister Fedeli and Minister McGregor and, of course, our Premier. As you know, Ontario is facing unprecedented geopolitical challenges that are creating economic uncertainty at the hands of our biggest ally and trading partner. These unprovoked actions have put our workers and our businesses and our industries at risk, highlighting the urgent need for bold, decisive action. And this is why we're here today. It's why we were elected. And this is what we plan to do. In this critical mineral race we are up against, we want to stand up for Canadians. And that's why we're taking concrete action to respond to these external threats while at the same time making sure that Ontario is never in a position where we have to rely on the U.S. or anyone else. Safeguarding Ontario's economic future is our top priority, and our plan to protect Ontario does more than just that. And make no mistake, energy and critical minerals are pivotal to the future of our province and our nation's prosperity. To unlock that potential, we have to make this process easier, because it cannot take up to 17 years to open a mine in the province. Let me give you an example. We did a lean review, as the Premier often challenges us to do in our ministries. We discovered that in one company, they waited over 1,300 days for an environmental assessment to be approved. Like 852 days of a bureaucracy in a ministry sitting on a decision. That is simply unacceptable. I think we recognize the world changed with the election of President Trump, and it's our job to fix it, which is exactly what we're doing today. We're going to make it easier and faster to get the permits needed to get approvals for mines, period. And we're going to do so in a socially responsible way that preserves our duty to consult obligations and the robust environmental protections that are being strengthened today. And we're taking a socially, environmentally, and economically responsible approach to pursue aggressive economic outcomes. So this means moving away from the old system where proponents had to navigate complex maze of multi-ministry approvals on their own. The new process will create a white glove approach. One point of contact, one process. If you want to open a mine, and we say this at the heart of the TSX, the heart of global mining investment, if you want to open a mine in this province, if you want to employ Ontario workers, we want to make this, and we will make this, the smoothest and most efficient process in the country. And all of this is being done without sacrificing environmental and consultatory processes that factor into that robust approval process. Now, I want to first acknowledge and thank the Indigenous communities, as Minister Rickford said, their leadership and advocacy as we really navigate this path forward. We will emerge as an economic and clean energy superpower. And we will do so by identifying strategic economic development zones. We'll do so by cutting the red tape and getting shovels in the ground. And that's how we're going to establish our province as the best place in the world to invest and to create jobs. This is how we move from decades of talk to real action. And it's how we build Ontario faster and stronger, and how we ensure Canada is economically sovereign and self-reliant and always independent. And at this time, I'm pleased to introduce the man who's leading the way, that's standing up for our country, and that's demonstrating courage to confront the challenges of our country, our Premier, Doug Ford. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Very well done. Well, good morning, everyone, and it's great to be here for such an important announcement. Boy, we're having a great week, and I just want to thank the TMX CEO, John McKenzie. John, thank you for everything you're doing, and the CEO of TSX, Louis Anastopoulos, and everyone at the TSX for hosting us today. I'm pleased to be here, joined by my great team of ministers, Minister Graham McGregor, Minister Todd McCarthy. You heard from Minister Greg Rickford, and of course, Minister Stephen Lecce. Yesterday, I was honored to be joined by Premier Houston of Nova Scotia and Premier Holt of New Brunswick to sign agreements that support free trade within Canada. And that's just the beginning. It's a massive move, not only today's announcement, but yesterday's as well. Together, we're tearing down internal trade barriers to build up our economy and unify our country. Today, we're here to unveil the next step in our plan to protect Ontario. We're here today to talk about growth, about jobs, about making Ontario's economy the most competitive place in the G7 to invest, create jobs, and do business. We're here today to talk about the urgent need to unlock the full potential of Ontario's economy, starting with our abundant supply of critical minerals. Ontario is home to tens of billions of dollars worth of untapped critical mineral reserves, including in the Ring of Fire, the largest deposit of critical minerals in the entire world. These reserves can transform our economy. They can create new opportunities for First Nations, for northern communities, and all of Ontario. Ontario has every critical mineral necessary for the growth of advanced economies. Simply put, we have the critical minerals the world needs and wants. We can be a global critical mineral superpower, creating thousands of new jobs and billions of dollars worth of economic growth. But for far too long, Ontario has been held back when it comes to unlocking this enormous potential. Not by foreign competition, not by a lack of talent or resources. We're being held back by our own processes. We're being held back by red tape and endless delays. Businesses that want to come here and invest in Ontario, they're forced to navigate a maze of red tape and bureaucracy with unclear timelines and overlapping requirements. Right now, it takes 15 years to open a new mine in Ontario. And as you heard from Minister Lecce, up to even 17 years. That's 15 years of missed opportunity, 15 years of jumping through hoops, 15 years of paperwork, duplication, and delays that drives away investment, that drives away job creators. These delays were never acceptable, but today, more than ever, we need to act. With President Trump taking direct aim at our economy, it cannot be business as usual. To protect Ontario, to build a competitive, resilient, and self-sufficient economy, we need to unlock every cent of economic growth we can. We need to unlock our vast deposits of critical minerals. Today, we're introducing the Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act. This legislation will streamline Ontario's permitting system. It will cut through the red tape and the delays so we can get shovels in the ground to build big things faster. This legislation will create new economic zones, regions of significant importance to the economic success and security of Ontario, including the Ring of Fire, to dramatically speed up approvals and permitting for mining projects and the critical infrastructure needed to support our economy. We're also introducing a new one project, one process permitting model to reduce approvals for new mining projects by 50%. Just imagine that 50%, how it creates economic development, creates investment. And we're changing the way we approve housing, transit, infrastructure, and other projects with a registration-first approach to permitting. That gets shovels in the ground faster while maintaining strong environmental standards. My friends, this is about more than red tape. It's about protecting our economy and our province no matter what. It's about making Ontario the best place in the G7 to invest and do business so we can face down whatever challenges come our way from President Trump or from anywhere else. We're going to make Ontario a place where we can build big things, where we can unleash our enormous economic potential. That's how we protect Ontario. Thank you so much, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you.
We will now take questions from the media. Media present can line up behind me and ask their questions through the microphone. As a friendly reminder, the format is one question and one follow-up. Please state your name and your outlet before your question. First question.
Thanks, Hannah. Hi, Jeff Craig, Globe Mail. Hi,
Jeff.
Wanted to ask about this. We're just digesting a lot of this stuff, and a lot of the details need to be worked out.
Yes.
But from what we can understand, with regard to the Ring of Fire, what you're proposing today does not affect the current process with regard to the roads that need to be constructed. It also, as you've said, that it will not affect the obligations of the government under the duty to consult with First Nations, which is also a big, long process and part of the delay here. So can you tell us what year you'd have a mine operating, a new mine operating in the Ring of Fire before you did this compared to now? I mean, we're still looking at years, a decade or more, right, before we have any action in the Ring of Fire, surely.
I hope it's not going to be 10 years, but before I hand it over to the Minister of Mines, let's talk about Arrowland. Let's talk about Chief Sonny, which is an incredible person. He knows it's going to improve the lives of his communities and communities around there. There's going to be a prosperity within his community. So there's approximately 80 kilometers from the beginning of that road through Arrowland. That's our first project, and we're going to work hard. And maybe I'll pass it over to Minister Lecce, then Minister Rickford, because I'll tell you, Minister Rickford has been absolutely instrumental in starting off the first launch of the road to the Ring of Fire. We were up there numerous times visiting Arrowland First Nations and Chief Sonny. I'll tell you, everyone needs to take a book out of Chief Sonny's, a page out of Chief Sonny's book. The guy's an absolute champion. I'll pass it over to you, Minister.
So under the existing system, a project proponent in the Ring of Fire or anywhere in Ontario has to pursue multiple permits, multiple ministries with unlimited number of days on the public service and government to make a decision. So, you mentioned that there are variables we don't control, and this proposal respects fully the duty to consult. And that will take the time it takes to make sure it's meaningful. But on the things we control in government, the number of days a public servant or a minister actually gets to adjudicate on a permit, that now will have a maximum number of literally, we're going to impose a maximum number of days on government to make decisions. We're going to cut down the permitting process by at least 50%, which can mean a permit can be approved within 24 months, which is even quicker than the EU's 27 months, which they just reformed the last month. So this allows one project, one window. They come through the Ministry of Energy and Mines today, not 19 ministries of approvals. We shepherd the approvals right across the government enterprise. So the end result is a streamlined, accelerated process. But obviously, we're going to fully respect our obligations to get this right. There's so much at stake in the Ring of Fire. And by the way, in the Sudbury Basin, we have some of the largest critical minerals already being extracted. There's extraction taking place and processing. Every mine in Ontario will benefit from this. There's 12 today before the ministry. All of them will benefit from the one process, one review should this bill pass.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Jeff. Look, the environmental assessment processes with respect to the corridor to prosperity are actually being effectively and efficiently led by First Nations, right? That was a dramatic policy shift that our government put in place as soon as we took government. On the point about the duty to consult, I think what the minister has carefully narrated to you is that a lot of the delays and challenges rest within the government ministries themselves. And so the benefits of an economic zone are very clear. With respect to duty to consult, they sharpen the focus on development of the region. The new face of critical minerals beyond the Sudbury Basin and some lithium opportunities in and around Thunder Bay are in the isolated and remote areas of Northern Ontario, and they require legacy infrastructure to support it. So being able to bring this in to an economic zone makes the duty to consult easier to perform. First Nations are not involved in a variety of different across government processes, and focus on the things that we have common interests in and consensus. Better road access, right? Leadership from First Nations communities, Chief Gagnon, Arrowland First Nations, the municipality of Greenstone, right from Highway 11. That's where that corridor begins. That's where electricity has been the most brittle historically. The communities most proximal to the Ring of Fire are still communities being electrified by diesel generation. They don't want that. We don't want that. So the kind of infrastructure required to support the Ring of Fire and some of these new critical mineral mine sites, I mean, having effective community and economic partnerships that we believe in the interests and the context of an economic zone make everything more effective, more efficient, with a sharpened focus on consensus items that we all need to build out for a stronger Northern Ontario writ large when it comes to critical mineral development.
And a follow-up question on a different topic for the Premier. You did take a question on this yesterday, but I wanted to see if you could clarify
Sure.
with regard to Ontario Place. So we have some reporting that is largely based on findings of the Auditor General from last year, which says that there's some ambiguity in a statement made by the company about whether it actually operated, owned these various other water parks. Turns out it actually at the time only owned and operated one of them and had some sort of affiliation, or the concept that it was going to use was being used at these other locations. When you gave the green light to this thing, did you think they ran 6 parks or 5 parks, or did you know that they actually only directly operated one?
Well, that all went through infrastructure. But let me talk about Ontario Place. More than 40 different studies, reports, as well as 2 publicly available environmental assessments being done on this site. And on Therme, when the call went out to develop, we accepted bids from a wide range of folks, including consortiums like the one Therme was part of. That included both Canadian and international firms. The Therme Group consortium represented itself, drawing teams and members from the Therme Group, Therme Wand, and Allied Heat Exchange, in addition to several other Canadian and international firms. These were folks with a capability to deliver on big projects like this. Every single submission that came in, including this one, underwent a thorough evaluation, including a financial review from EY. As part of this review, an analyst of audited financial statements demonstrated that Therme met the financial net worth test required. The Auditor General confirmed this, and you must have seen that if you looked at the Auditor General's report. We have no reason to believe there's been any wrongdoing. We're moving forward with this project. It's going to be world-class. It's going to be spectacular. And I promise you one thing, the same people that have been complaining are going to be the first people in line to experience just an incredible Ontario place, along with other venues like Live Nation and Public Realm, and Therme plays about that big of a part in the overall Ontario place. But thanks for the question. We're moving forward with this, and we're going to get it done.
Just sorry, did you understand that they had 1 park or 5?
No, I don't get involved in the bids directly. I think I said that yesterday, Jeff. That's not my area. It's Infrastructure Ontario, world-class organization that puts together agreements and deals, and then we move forward on it. And we're moving forward on this, and we're going to go as quickly as possible.
Just to follow up on that, Mark McAllister from City News. Within the last 24 hours, you said you were going to double and triple check this. Have you done so? And so as a result of that double and triple checking, you're now
I'm very satisfied. I'm very satisfied. We looked into it, and it was clear as day. The auditor looked at it. You had the integrity commissioner look at it. You had everyone in the world look at this. We're moving forward, and it's going to be a great place.
With regard to today's announcements and the legislation, you're clearly putting this around the context of mining and the Ring of Fire.
Yes.
This legislation will also include, and you very briefly mentioned at the end of your remarks, Ontario Place as an example as well. A number of studies have been done, but more has to be done in order to push this project forward. Are you saying that as a result of something like this, you don't have to go through those processes anymore?
Well, we already went through environmental assessments. We've done every single study under the sun. We're moving forward with this. But let me tell you something. We had a very clear mandate to drive economic growth, to give opportunities like the Ring of Fire, like interprovincial trade. That's what we're doing. And we're going to move forward, making sure we aren't held back for years and years of red tape and regulations. You know, you look at Quebec when it comes to mining. They get things done half the time what we do. You look at Australia, again, half the time. You look at what they're doing down in the U.S., President Trump saying, show us $1 billion investment and we'll get permits in 1 year. Folks, this is what we're up against. We're in an economic war. President Trump wants to destroy our economy, take jobs away from Ontarians and Canadians, and we have to get up and fight like we've never fought before. We can't be caught up in red tape and regulations and dilly-dallying around. As Minister Lecce said, to get a permit, 1,300 days for an environmental assessment? You know something? If that's the case, you might as well pack up your bags and close shop. We don't believe in closing shop. We believe in moving forward, creating economic opportunities for First Nations, for northern communities, for all of Ontario. We have the critical minerals the world wants. We're going to get them out of the ground by Ontarians. We're going to refine them right here in Ontario by Ontarians, and then we're going to ship them around the world. That's what our plan is, and we're going to be the wealthiest, most prosperous sub-sovereign nation in the entire world.
Hi, it's Chris Rishowi with the Toronto Star. With this legislation, you're looking to fast-track permitting and approvals, but how are you going to ensure proper and thorough oversight?
Oh, that's one thing we won't skip. We'll make sure there's thorough oversight. No matter if it's duty to consult, as you heard from Minister Rickford, or environmental studies, as you heard from Minister Lecce. We have our Minister of Environment here. But we have to move quicker. My question is very simply, why can everyone else in the world do it and Ontario can't? Well, the game has changed now. It's not the same rules as usual. We're going to move forward. We're going to create economic growth right across the province. We will be the wealthiest, richest, most prosperous, safest jurisdiction in the world. And people from around the world, including Americans, will come here and they'll be pouring investment into Ontario. So we just can't wait to get the shovels in the ground and get the critical minerals out.
I'm also wondering what your thoughts are on the Integrity Commissioner's report that came out today that bans John Mutton, also known as Mr. X, for his Greenbelt lobbying activities.
That's the first I've heard about it, but I have a very clear message to anyone that wants to lobby any government: follow the rules. If you don't follow the rules, you deserve a punishment. Simple as that.
Hi there, Lorenda from CBC.
Hi, Lorenda.
Hi. With these changes for mining and specifically the Ring of Fire,
Yes.
this will take longer than Donald Trump is in as president. Are you using his tariff threats as an excuse to be able to do this?
An excuse. So we're doing it because we need to do it. If not, we're going to get annihilated. Like if we just sit back and just say, okay, business as usual. Well, we see what business as usual does. We have upwards to $1 trillion in the Ring of Fire, and we aren't sitting around for the next 20, 30 years to get that out. People, we ran an election, very clear mandate. I said this over and over and over again, every stop I did. We are going to make sure we get the shovels in the ground. We're going to make sure those critical minerals get refined right here in Ontario, and we're going to create jobs and opportunities and wealth for everyone in Ontario, including First Nations, northern communities. That's what we're going to focus on.
Why is the York 1 landfill included in this legislation, and do you plan to use it to exempt future landfills from environmental assessments?
We're tired of relying on the U.S. 40% of waste from companies and people are heading down to the U.S. Just imagine if tomorrow President Trump, and don't put it past him, President Trump says, we aren't taking any more of Ontario's waste. What do? There's 40% of it. You see those trucks going down the highways all the time, down to Michigan and dropping off our waste and turning around. We do not want to rely on any other country, especially the U.S., for anything, no matter if it's our waste or manufacturing or our steel beams or our cereal or everything else. We want to be self-sufficient. We saw what happened during the pandemic when President Trump cut us off in the N95 masks. We stood up a whole sector in 2 months. So we're on pandemic speed right now. We're going to keep moving forward, and we're going to make sure that no one holds us back and we don't have to rely on the U.S. or anywhere else in the world.
Hi, Premier. It's Jessica from the Trillium.
Hi, Jessica.
On the Waialua Eagle's Nest mine, I'm trying to understand if that mine will be subject to any environmental assessment. The mine itself, not the roads. I get that.
I'll pass that over to my Minister of Mining.
So mines currently are subject on a voluntary basis to environmental assessments. They've opted to pursue an EA, but the terms of reference of that EA is literally radically different than what the project looks like today. Like the EA you're talking about included a railway line. It's not on the table today. So this is actually more of a technical change. Their project has changed, thus the EA requirement will change as well. But as you know, in this bill, and as was noted this morning in the tech brief, there's a strengthening of environmental protection. There's a strengthening of penalties. We are zero tolerance when it comes to this. We are totally committed to ensuring that we get shovels in the ground in a responsible, balanced approach that seizes the moment, because the world has changed. And frankly, if we don't act, when we talk about the environment, like think of the alternative, if not democratic, stable, environmentally responsible Canada. We're talking about mines operated by some of the global pariahs of the world, from China to Russia, from human rights to environmental protections. So I want Canadian resources, we want Canadian resources to prevail, to displace these regimes and to ensure that jobs, prosperity, and opportunity get unlocked right here at home in Canada.
I think I might follow up with your staff on that, because I need to use my follow-up for a colleague's story today. Today, the Integrity Commissioner's Office revealed it's found 3 more people to have broken the province's lobbying law. Premier, you have said that you expect everyone to follow the lobbying rules, but that's not what was happening. And this step by the Integrity Commissioner's Office is quite unusual. We believe it to be unprecedented. So what's going wrong here? Is this the lobbyist sector, or is it the expectations your government has set for how business gets done?
No, the lobbyist sector, you break the rules, you're going to be punished. Simple. I don't dictate to every single lobbyist in this country or in this province. And very simple. You don't follow the rules, you're going to be held accountable. Very simple as that. And whoever breaks the rules, the Integrity Commissioner, I have all the confidence in, are going to hold them accountable. If you don't follow the rules, don't come knocking on anyone's doors.
Hey, Premier. Barbara with QP Briefing.
Hi.
So we had the federal leaders debate yesterday in French. We're going to have another one today in English as well. But one of the questions asked was about building pipelines. I'm just curious to know where you stand on this. Do you support building the pipelines in the West?
Well, I support building pipelines. We have to. You look at the reason they're landlocked and why the United States, has us where they want us for years. Every politician across this country, every federal politician, every provincial politician should have been building the pipelines west, north up towards the Hudson Bay, and east. East over to Sarnia, east over to the Irving refinery in New Brunswick. We cannot rely on the U.S. any longer. We can make sure that we get this pipeline and start distributing the wealth around the world until we can create wealth right here in our country. So I'm 100% building these pipelines on one condition. We get the steel here and we make the pipes here in Ontario. And I know every province has their area of expertise. Ours is building those steel pipes.
Thank you. You're announcing today this legislation to speed up mining construction. And there is one piece of federal legislation that the federal conservatives call the anti-pipeline legislation. It's the Bill C-69. It also makes it a bit harder to get a mining built as well. So is this something you would like to see whoever forms the next federal government repealing?
It is absolutely critical we get rid of Bill C-69. And if people don't understand what Bill C-69, look it up. And, it's just a burden on development. It's years of red tape, exactly what we're trying to get rid of. Bill C-69 is a disaster, in my opinion. I don't support it. I'll never support it. And whoever wins this federal election, you need to get Bill C-69 off the table and start creating prosperity. And very bluntly, get your head out of the sand. We're in an economic war right now. And we have President Trump that's trying to annihilate us. And we have more wealth and we'd create more jobs than ever before. But we can't do this with, a 100-pound weight around our neck. So I am dead against Bill C-69. And you know who's just dead against it? Every single person standing behind me. Vic, Economic Development. You want to say anything about? No, you're good. I've ranted enough. Okay. Well, it's one of those roadblocks that we've been talking about over and over again.
This will be the last question.
Hi, Premier. Alison Jones with the Canadian Press.
Hi, Alison.
Just hoping for a few more details about these economic priority zones. Who is going to have the power to designate them? And other than the Ring of Fire, are there other areas you're looking at? Ontario Place, Highway 401?
And well, anything that we see economic opportunity, building a tunnel, for example, along the 401, any major infrastructure project that creates opportunities and economic development. And we want to work with the federal government. If anyone gets elected, and hopefully whoever does get elected believes in putting a pipeline across the country, it will go right through Ontario. Let's speed things up. Let's make sure that pipeline gets done. Let's make sure it gets out to Irving or gets down to Sarnia or wherever we're going to refine this oil. And folks, we have the opportunity to be leaders in the world. No matter if it's oil or if it's electricity or if it's critical minerals. And to be very frank, the country has been sitting on their hands. We need to start moving. We'll be the envy of the world. It doesn't matter what President Trump does to us, because we'll have the critical minerals, we'll have the energy, we'll have the oil, and guess what? We can ship it around the world, and we will be the wealthiest jurisdiction anywhere in the G7, no matter if it's leading the way on the energy sector, which Minister Lecce, and do you have a minute to talk about everything we're doing in energy for 2 seconds? What a great story, just 2 minutes. The small modular reactors, and everyone in the world wants our small modular reactors, including the U.S. But why don't you spend 30 seconds on a high level of what we're doing?
I heard 2 minutes, Premier, but so look, we're leading a nuclear renaissance. I mean, this bill actually allows us to further streamline, accelerate net new energy as we build a Canadian energy corridor, which is at the core of the Premier's vision. I mean, we want to get going. And if we do that, we need to be building net new nuclear to power the mines and the economic growth that Minister Fedeli is attracting to the province of Ontario. So how do we do that? We invest in baseload nuclear power, Canadian technology. So first, we're leading the largest nuclear generator on the continent in Bruce C. That's up to 5,000 megawatts of clean power. Small modular reactors, the first in the G7, are being built at Darlington. The first will be in, the fleet will be unveiled by 2030. Stackable power, exportable to the world. Eastern Europe is signing up, among many other nations, including the U.S., who has already signed on to buy our technology. And we've announced the largest net new nuclear generator on Earth, hydroelectric investments in the North last week with Minister Perry, with Indigenous leaders who led the way. Like all the above, we're on a roll. But if we want to seize the moment as a clean energy superpower, we've got to cut the red tape. When we are the 10th out of 10 subnational jurisdictions when it comes to attracting mining investment, when we have one of the slowest permitting regimes in the province, in the country, and on Earth, no one can tell me the status quo is better than the alternative. So now's our moment to scale up, and the Premier has given us clear indication, working across the enterprise with Minister Rickford, to work with Indigenous communities to get to yes in a responsible, balanced way that protects the environment but grows the economy.
And just to follow up, 30 seconds, give or take, right? Just to follow up, the Minister just mentioned Indigenous communities. You talked earlier about Chief Sunny. We know, obviously, that there are some First Nations communities near the Ring of Fire on board with this project, some who are very much not. How do you get them on board? How do you build that relationship? And is talk of speeding things up to get the mines, get the minerals out of the ground, is that going to be helpful to building those relationships?
Well, before I hand this to Minister Rickford here, you know, we've built up an incredible relationship with First Nations. We're the first government that's given them opportunities at every step of the way, making sure they have an opportunity to invest in electricity. Just imagine people living on diesel throughout the whole winter, compared to being part of putting electricity right into their homes every single day, and them being part owner of the grid there. These are the opportunities that some very progressive thinking First Nations communities, no matter if it's Arrowland or Webequie or Martin Falls, and I could keep listing them off all the way down the road. And all the other First Nations are going to look over and say, boy, they're prospering. You know, they have electricity while we're still on diesel. They have ability to bring health care a lot quicker. They have ability to bring fresh fruit that's not frozen, which is just, it seems so common for us to walk down the street and go in the grocery store. These folks don't have that. These are the opportunities that we're going to make sure that each community has. As for the Ring of Fire, and you know, there's one First Nations community, and correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, I think they're 500 kilometers away, saying, well, I don't want the Ring of Fire. Well, I'll tell you one thing, Martin Falls, Webequie, and Arrowland aren't too happy with those folks claiming that they have to stop their prosperity because another First Nations community is 500 kilometers away complaining about it. Why don't we start looking into their community and helping them? We want to give everyone a hand up. And there's no government, as I've been told by many chiefs, that have been more supportive to the First Nations community than this government, the PC government. Over to you, Greg.
So, Allison, the important thing to understand here is that when we take a community partnership, economic partnership model to these resource development projects and the legacy infrastructure that goes with this, we get consensus, right? I mentioned a couple of other projects, and frankly, on the consensus items, so they have no electricity unless it's borne by diesel generation. They have brittle critical infrastructure, everything from broadband to water, wastewater treatment, right? Some of their buildings in community, high schools and the likes, can't be built to the standards in some respects that we see here in southern Ontario because of the challenges. We have winter roads that are shrinking in their time to service those communities. And gosh, when we get talking to First Nations leadership there in proximal to the Ring of Fire or any other parts of Northern Ontario, we converge on things that we all have is in our best interest. And it's that approach that has been the hallmark of success for other resource projects and the legacy infrastructure to support it. As the Premier says, when it comes to the Ring of Fire, we're talking about building a corridor, the distance roughly between Toronto and Montreal. The legacy infrastructure projects don't just provide better economic, social, and health capacity for those communities. They are an essential right-of-way for people to build vibrant, sturdy communities and contribute to a meaningful growth of the mining sector, including great jobs. Hope, opportunity, and prosperity rests as much in the legacy infrastructure projects, which we all agree about. I've never talked to a chief in that region who is fundamentally opposed to it. And then the conversation about developing the Ring of Fire with respect to mining becomes a far less difficult conversation to have. And I got to say, I'm very encouraged, even quite recently, that there is support from most of the chiefs, if not all, on the legacy infrastructure piece and the ability to pivot towards building a mine at the Eagle's Nest site. Frankly, if we do it this way, we're creating an opportunity and an invitation for the federal government, who we haven't talked about too much except for Bill C-69, to get in the game and support this. Not one red cent has come from them. The only participation they've had in the Ring of Fire is through Bill C-69 and the application of regulatory processes with respect to Eagle's Nest. We want that to change, and the plan that under the leadership of this Premier and Minister Lecce has put forward, I think holds great promise, not just for the development of that mine site, there are others, but also strong communities from municipalities south into the farther north First Nations communities, and we all agree on what's required to build those out. Okay? Thanks.
That concludes our announcement. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. What a great week, great announcements. We're going to build this province, the likes of which this country has never seen before. Thank you. God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you so much.